tabs that could be sit there and looked at, because I know Simon says, open the other tabs. It's like, yeah, not sure which one. I've got so many on my screen, it's not funny, but, feel free to message me a link. We've got to see to Ryan. Actually, let's go and have a look at the seat of, I want to see the seat of Melbourne. Because the seat of Melbourne is the one I actually want to see whether... So at the moment, it does look like it's potentially for the Greens to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 63.8% counted. That's not a good sign there.
Because this is an interesting one, Sam, because this is Adam Bant, who's the Greens leader. And basically, if they lose this one, they're completely out of the parliament. Because they lost the 2 seats in Brisbane, which was the 2 that they won back what they won last time.
Yeah.
And Adam Bant's seat, it was the 3rd seat. So if they lose this one, then they will be completely out of the parliament and the lower house. They will obviously have seats in the upper house because of preferences. But if they lose this will be a huge wipeout for them, which would be really sad, actually.
Jeez.
Yeah,
this
and
will be rough.
Yeah, and also, here's the thing is, this is the one the Greens have held for a long time. This is not a seat they just got at last election. He's held that seat since 2010.
Yeah, this deserves a deep dive into an autopsy into figuring out what happened there.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, if you take a look at past winning seats on there, it does show that it's been Labour. It's been Labour through and through up until 2010, and then it flipped to Green. Yeah, it's one where this one could blow back very hard. Oh, they actually have a pretty map of telling you where the polling booths are. Oh, I see what's happened. It's taken this area and shoved it, and this area has been put in here, and that's possibly why.
Oh, what the hell? Did they change the boundaries?
Yeah, Australia, they had a redistribution, and like New Zealand, they lost a seat, but I don't know how the population quota works, that they ended up losing a seat. But you know how we've lost a seat because the South Island grew quicker than the North? I don't know how Australia's population quota works.
Ah, okay, that explains quite a bit.
Yeah.
I wonder if the same thing happened up at Ruane.
Yeah, let's go to the seat of Ryan and actually and does that have a map in there? But that one doesn't doesn't show boundary redraws unless that particular seat didn't actually need to be redrawn at last election.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Okay, so the change there is a bit more organic.
Yeah, Griffith, that's the one that's Kevin Rudd's old seat. I'll get rid of these tabs here and get rid of that one there. And Griffith is the one that's about to flip, that is likely to flip to Labour. This is one of the seats that the Greens grabbed at the last election, which has been pretty much been Labour through and through, as you can see there, with the exception of some random elections it hasn't. I'm not sure what the bigger thing means in there, but that I do know those are years that Kevin Rudd that was definitely a Kevin Rudd period. So let's see if it's got a... So, yeah, I don't know how that's leading to where it is, except for the fact it's probably the redistributions of the second preference votes. So that's probably the thing is it will be redistribution votes for the Liberal National Party. Yeah, that will probably be why it's flipped the way it's did. Yeah, trying to think, what's another electorate that could, I mean, I wouldn't even know what half of these electorates are. I don't know who sits in what electorates or anything. Let's look at Malcolm Turnbull's old electorate, Wentworth, because this one's actually really interesting. Because this is the one that's gone to another independent, but it's the one that went independent, went back to the, Liberal National, went back to the coalition, and I think it's now flipped back to. It's one of the teal seats.
Yeah, it's a legal spender that's got that seat now.
So I wonder if Queensland didn't actually have a boundary redraw. Yep, so this electorate has got bigger since the last election. But that's actually quite interesting to see where the spreads of votes are, of like where the polling places that of which percentage of majorities they are. Gee, I wonder if we've got such a fancy system like this in New Zealand, because I don't think the Electoral Commission has something this flash, or not at that point. But I mean, this data could have all been what's released within today, not from yesterday. But yeah, it's interesting just seeing how these votes are going all around the place.
So the teal seats are quite interesting because the teal candidates are funded by someone called Simon Holmes the Court, and he was really interested to fund independent candidates that signed up to a series of pledges that were aligned to climate goals, and but they weren't aligned to the Greens in Australia. And there was a lot of money on the table. He's got access to he's a billionaire, so cash is not a problem.
He's a different person from Bob Catter.
Yes, he's a different person.
So what you're telling me? So what you're telling me is the teals are kind of like Australia's version of top.
I wouldn't quite put them in the top category, but they're certainly very interested in climate change and interested in issues that you look at Wentworth. That is a blue seat, and people in that seat are very interested in climate change and not destroying the planet ultimately. But they're also interested in making sure their property value goes up at the same time.
Okay. So basically blue greens. All right. So they're basically
We're looking at Warringah, which is another teal seat, and this one was literally Liberal Party right up until the last election. I wonder if it's Tony Abbott's old seat.
I think that might be, yeah.
Yeah, because the Tony Abbott seat, the one where his seat went for gay marriage in the plebiscite and he still voted against it. Yeah, but that's interesting what areas it's encompassed and what it's lost. No, it's definitely not Tony Abbott's seat, but it's the wrong election because Tony Abbott got booed out in 2019. And so that must not been Tony Abbott's old seat. Let's look at McKellar, which is Bronwyn Bishop's old seat. If you remember sat down there and helicoptered away because she didn't want to spend, it was something like to go 90 minutes up the road.
That sounds like our Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't a natural disaster in that particular situation. She was the speaker, but yeah, this is another seat that used to be strong Liberal Party, but went.
Yeah, now that's interesting, isn't it? That flip.
Yeah. They must have changed the way they do their electoral boundaries in Australia. They must be happy to include parts of the sea now. Because they're definitely, that must be something in there. Whereas we're in New Zealand, if we don't have the sea, we tend to, basically, it's to do with the sea. We go out however many, it's whatever the regional council boundary limits are out towards sea.
I think it's really interesting looking through all these results because we're getting a pattern of kind of what the Australian voter wants. They want like a stable economy, they want workers' rights, but they also want candidates that take climate change seriously. Looking at a lot of these results, so the independents, that's really interesting with the Teals and the independents. Yeah.
What's another? Fowler's another independent seat. There seem to be New South Wales is mainly where the independents seem to pop up from. I'm just looking to see what other ones are out there.
Like the teal phenomenon is something we haven't seen here properly. Like we haven't seen really well-funded, climate-aligned, independent candidates running in general elections here. And I think, that's something that we have yet to see come onto the general election kind of landscape. And potentially it's something we'll see in the future.
I think it's partly because we've got MMP. It's probably the reason why we haven't seen it quite go out that way.
Well, that's right, Sam. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Because, we do have MMP, which is something that, something Australia does not have. They use preferential voting.
But yeah, it is interesting seeing, people want blue-greens. I think that's something that New Zealand First should really be paying attention to, and same with the ACT Party. It's like, okay, people don't actually mind semi-progressive policies as long as you're taking things like workers' rights and climate change and all that stuff seriously.
Yeah.
But you see, the interesting part of this conversation is that there's always been a well-hidden part of the National Party that is blue-green, that does focus on environmental issues and does, talk about those types of related issues. And the big conversation was always, is the National Party going to do a deal with the Greens? Is the Blue Greens going to, get an ascendancy within the National Party to reach out and do a deal with the Greens? That's never happened, and it's probably never going to happen. But
no.
But I mean, if that were to happen, that would be a significant move. But I can't see it happening.
You can see why I kind of made that comparison between the Teals and the Top Party, because there's like.
Well, that was also, remember, the Top Party changed its colour at the last election based on what happened in Australia. Because remember, they used to have a black was one of their colours.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something it was looking at that was to appeal to that base. But I mean, the fact is they didn't get any seats. But the one seat they could potentially target and have a serious shot at could be the proposed new Wellington Central electorate.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it's got that Kandala, Crofton Downs, Nio part of Ohio in it, who they might not vote for Nicola Willis, but if Greg O'Connor's out of the picture, potentially, that's potentially where the votes could go is to Jessica Hammond, if she decides to stand for a fourth election. Fourth or third? Fourth election. God. Well, she does, under new boundaries, she still lives in the electorate.
I do wonder how much of a reflection, people voting for independence, I do wonder how much of that is based on what's happening in the States with Bernie Sanders doing his, anti-oligarchy tour and being quite vocal about supporting independent candidates. I wonder if that's starting to have a bit of an effect in places like Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be, yes, because that's something that Bernie Sanders is trying to do is for the areas where they won't vote Democrat is to run in a good independent instead, and then have them caucus with the Democrats.
Yep.
Yeah, which was both him and Angus King have been doing for years. Yeah, I do like what Simon's saying on there. That would be an ideal seat for top to target. Yeah, considering Ohariu is gone, unless we have some massive objection that sits there and results in a big massive rewrite. But yeah, it's an interesting one of like, well, which one do you target? Do you target the electorate or do you target the seat? It's a weird one. Like, which one do you go after? And the fact that the proposed New Wellington Central seat is bluer than the previous one. But the fact is, Robotai has just got a bit greener. And it did get a good chunk of Labour area. Or, Labour section. I don't know, is there any other things of election stuff to sit there and look at? Because I'm not sure if it's worth us trying to start a bill.
I mean, we've gone all around the world. We went to the UK, we went to Canada, we went to Australia, we even went to Singapore.
No, we didn't really delve into Singapore in much detail other than just the fact that there was an election. But we actually could find out, what are the seats and all that sort of thing in there, what voting systems they use.
So they first past the post.
Usually an election in Singapore is not really newsworthy, to be honest, because usually there's only one party running, and most people just vote for the majority party, and then it gets announced, that the majority party is back in for another 5 years, and off everyone goes. But I think it's interesting that we are having some more kind of shoots of democracy happening. I think that is interesting. So that is an interesting development there.